6:46 coming up to 6:47 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, you couldn't find a spare roti anywhere yesterday because East Indian delicacies and culture reigned supreme yesterday as the country observed another Indian Arrival Day holiday. Today concludes the month-long observance of Indian Heritage Month, which this year commemorates the 177th anniversary of the arrival of the first East Indian immigrants aboard the Fatah Razak on May 30th, 1845. The holiday was granted back in 1994, first called Arrival Day and later changed to Indian Arrival Day. Well, to wrap up our discussion and indeed to just give us some context to the entire observance, indeed specifically yesterday, we're joined once again by the founder of Caribbean Hindustani, Dr. Visham Bimal, who is in the Sister Isle of Tobago, and indeed we spoke to a representative of the Hindu community on Friday. Looking forward to the weekend's activities. Dr. Visham Bimal, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us once again.
Sitaram, Namaste, Assalamu Alaikum, and Shubh Hindustani Aane Wala Ka Din Sabhan Ke. Happy Indian Arrival Day to everyone. It was yesterday, but well, it's better late than never.
Indeed, and as far as the entire observance would have gone, and indeed raising greater levels of awareness, not just with the ethnic East Indian community, but wider Trinidad and Tobago. What's your perspective on it as it has evolved over the years?
Yes, it has evolved. As a child, if you even look at how Indian Arrival Day became a holiday in 1994, when I was in primary school, it was not a holiday. We knew of it, but it wasn't formally celebrated outside the community. I think just like how Diwali started, Indian Arrival Day was also celebrated at a community level. And then came organizations like the National Council of Indian Culture, who initially had set that stage to celebrate Diwali, and now there was actually a national stage to celebrate Indian Arrival. I must mention, though, when I was at Hillview College, I think around that time, Indian Arrival Day became a national holiday. I think Basdev Pandey was the Prime Minister, and we had celebrated around that time 150 years. Everyone was looking forward to the celebrations. And I remember going with Mr. Richard Kokaram in his car from Hillview College on that holiday to Skinner Park. So we were Presbyterian or CM school. A lot of the Indians were educated by the Canadian missionaries. So we were kind of like a stakeholder in that celebration. So Hillview College went and we got these banners and these hats and we went straight across stage. My experience at Hillview College was that though being empowered in your identity, or at least I learned that at Hillview College, being empowered in your identity is indeed a very integral and important part for you to understand what it is to be Trinbagonian, because all these are elements of who we are.
And before we touch on some other points that we'd like to highlight, how would you respond to those who will say that, look, you know, this fixation with Indian Arrival Day, in the same way with Emancipation Day, that we should be more focusing on promoting Trinidadianness, because highlighting these cultural roots and historical roots, which are important historically, only widens the division. Because at one time, we didn't really observe Emancipation Day. It was Discovery Day. We were celebrating the arrival of Columbus in Trinidad and Tobago, rather than celebrating emancipation. In the same way, in Indian Arrival Day with 1994, that was the time of the PNM administration. It was changed from Arrival Day to Indian Arrival Day by the Basdev Pandey administration a couple of years later. But how would you respond to that? That, look, we need to celebrate Trinidadianness rather than Indianness or Africanness.
So what is the definition of Trinidadianness? If I'm not an Indo-Caribbean, if you are not a French Creole, if you're not Syrian, then what is Trinidadianness? Trinidadianness can't just be in a vacuum. It has to be in some sort of context, some sort of history, some sort of identity nationally. If it is on its own, and you tell the world, I am Trinidadian, then what does that mean? And the world will only understand what it means based on the story we are, as Trinbagonians, have to tell them. And that is steeped in our history, culture, and heritage.
then there are so many strands we could take off from that. But talking about the evolution of Indian arrival and the observance of Indian arrival, I think we have an image that you would have sent us that we could probably put up, which marked the centenary of Indian arrival in Trinidad and Tobago. This was long before it became a national holiday. This would have been May the 30th, 1945, almost towards the end of World War II. And Dr. Visham, just give me some context as to the image that we are looking at.
All right. So yes, that in itself shows the unity among the Indo-Trinidadian community to have come out and done something like that and celebrate 100 years of arrival. But you should also know that it's around the World War time. At that time, the independence movement of India was moving forward, and they had reached out to us as people of Indian origin to support that cause. So India itself, in rebranding it, well, at that point, rebranding itself towards independence, wanted to include all of us, Trinbagonian Indians, Indo-Ghanese, Indo-Surinamese, Indo-Fijians, Indo-South Africans. All of us had gotten or were in contact with that movement, and it actually being involved in that gave us this courage to come out and have such sort of celebration and be empowered in who we are and where we came from.
And as we're talking about that, let's talk about how the observance of Indian Arrival Day has evolved over the years.
Well, we mentioned a key organization, which was the National Council of Indian Culture. It was initially National Council of Indian Music and Drama, which started in 1964, which is 2 years after independence. And then it formed a stage for what we call local classical singing, and then slowly started being an advocate and lobbying towards Indian different aspects of Indian culture that is expressed in our society. And then it became a space for the Indian arrival celebrations to move out of the community level and go on a main stage, a national stage. Now, I was in Tobago for this weekend, this long weekend, because Caribbean Hindustani was involved with organizing the Indian Arrival Day program for the Tobago Hindu Society. And when we started PR and that, a lot of people didn't even realize there were Hindus in Tobago. Actually, we call it establish. The Mandiralidi Foundation some weeks ago, and now they were looking forward to celebrating this. They celebrate Indian arrival as well as Diwali. The thing is, though, that a lot of Trinidadians themselves don't know that there's a Hindu community here that fosters and are empowered in that identity. These were descendants of indentured laborers, not from Tobago, because Tobago, as you know, have a separate history from Trinidad. Tobago changed 11 hands of colonial masters. We only changed 2 in Trinidad. So that in that way, we have our own uniqueness. However, these immigrants now, or descendants of immigrants, who lived in Trinidad now found jobs in Tobago, and now for 30 years have established this Hindu society in Tobago, and now paving the way for Indians and Hindus and those descendants of indentured laborers to even celebrate here. And I also went to Ravi B's concert last night, which was quite a hit here in Tobago. And a lot of people know chutney music. When we went on the boat to go off to the reef, they played chutney music. And when we were in Island Pool, it was chutney music and tassa. So
yeah, Dr. Visham, so can I wait for the video to come out showing Dr. Visham Bimal whining on the boat, making a set of noise and disturbing the peace?
Well, everyone was disturbing the peace and enjoying themselves, just not me.
Okay, but just in general, how would you describe the observances of Indian arrival in Tobago over the course of the weekend?
I think a lot of the parties were, the music changed. There was this main event on Sunday, and even all the avenues of expressing culture here in Tobago actually turned its dial onto Indian arrival and the Indo-Trinidad, Trinbagonian experience, which was quite unique and refreshing for me.
And when we talk about that sense of identity, do you see any conflict with identifying yourself as someone of East Indian descent and being mindful of those traditions and being guided by those traditions in the same way that you would be, I'm assuming, proudly the holder of a Trinidad and Tobago passport? Do you see any conflict there?
You watch cricket. I'm always in cricket a Trinidadian first, and I would support the Trinbagonian or West Indian team. After that, then we sort out issues of other parts of identity. But I always say I am a Trinbagonian first, and then I explain how I am a Trinbagonian.
And as time has gone by, are you seeing a dilution of that? Because as you mentioned cricket, there was a time not so long ago where West Indies teams didn't like playing in Trinidad and Tobago or Guyana when India or Pakistan, because they felt that they were playing in a foreign land. That would seem to have changed over the years. Does that reflect to you among the younger generations a greater level of disconnect from Indian roots? Has that been your experience?
You need to realize us as persons of Indian origin in the Caribbean and other countries that I mentioned are not Indian nationals. There's a stark difference in that identity. Our ancestors left India during colonial period and came here and established itself here and imbibed elements of culture here. So it's not a pure thing. We are all mixed. And unfortunately, the education system in this country, or at least in general, does not cater to that. So they don't teach our children about our true history, our true identity. We still have this European perspective. And the idea is that even in the Ministry of Culture and Education, we are not proud to be Trini other than just for Carnival, and conveniently so for other things. But we should be proud to be Trinbagonian and promote that as a brand internationally, because it augurs well for our tourism, trade, and everything else.
And of course, we also have the experience of our different foods and different cultures and the way we've blended together and mixed together. And just as a final thought, Dr. Visham, from your own point of view, given from, as you mentioned, from your school days and the initial observance of Indian arrival and so on, has it, during this time, whether it's been caused by Indian arrival awareness or emancipation awareness, do you see greater unity or greater divisiveness?
I see young people who need a change, and I see young people even abroad who are not even of Indian origin, and they would still dance at a chutney and a tassa. So I think the more and more I look at it from Trinidad and traveling all over the world, that the young people are the ones who are changing that, not the old people stuck in old ways of being divided by political propaganda.
I'm talking about being stuck in old ways. I used to buff up my colleagues here in TV6 about referencing roti skin, because I know roti to be the roti.
Roti.
But I see now that even in the roti shop, they're referring to it as roti skin, because as to distinguish from the wrap roti. So even a hardback person like me has to learn sometimes about the evolution of the descriptors. But Dr. Visham, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to be with us this morning once again.
And thanks again for the opportunity.
Indeed, and thanks very much for your input during this Indian Arrival Awareness Month, as far as Caribbean Hindustani and our Bhojpuri lessons that we've had 4 of them over the course of this month of May. It's now coming up towards 7 o'clock. Time now for the news headlines.